Good morning everyone, Jason here, and today we are going to learn how to do a digital portrait sketch in Photoshop. Now I'm using a photo taken by a friend of mine whose Instagram link is in the description box below, so if you're interested to look at some of his photos, you may do so. So I'm using that as a reference, and I created a new document with the same dimensions as the reference image. To view the reference image and your drawing side by side like this, simply go to Windows, Arrange, and select the two up vertical to display them like this. Now for this particular video, my process is a little bit different from a previous video. I'm actually starting with a simple sketch to determine the proportions of the face. I typically bind my shortcut keys to the left hand side of the keyboard because I'm a right-hander. And I draw with my right hand, so by doing so I can quickly toggle between the different tools that I need to accomplish this particular sketch. Now when sketching, you will see that I constantly flip the image, and it's quite important to do so frequently to check on the proportions and to make sure that things look correct. I'm not exactly sure about the science behind it, but for me personally, when I draw, it looks okay, but when I flip it, it'll look horrendous, and then I will just go ahead and edit the drawing, which is I guess a good thing about drawing in Photoshop, is that you can use tools such as the lasso selection tool in combination with the transform tool to edit your drawing, whereas in a traditional setting you need to erase and redraw. However, using Photoshop, you can it is much easier for you to make corrections like this. You also notice that when I do my sketch, I will actually draw in the terminator line. It actually helps me when I move on to the shading process. So for the background, I'm just using a textured brush to quickly lay in the basic shapes that you see. For this particular image, the background is blurred, but usually even if the background is not blurred, I will try to keep the background relatively simple, because after all the subject or the character or the human in the image is the object that I want to capture the most. It's my primary focal point, so I'm not going to spend too much time rendering the background. So while coloring this, I'm trying to keep everything in a separate layer. As you can see, my background is a separate layer, my character shading is a separate layer, and of course my line art is a separate layer. Right now I am shading the character or the human subject, but I'm doing so underneath the line art layer. This is so that I can still see my drawing above where I'm shading right now. Another thing that you'll notice is that throughout this entire process of me sketching the reference, sketching from the reference to shading the background, and right now I'm doing the character, I've actually never I've not zoomed in at all, and I personally believe that it's a much more efficient way of working, to be looking at things from afar and not be too concerned with the tiny details. When painting, I usually use the eyedropper tool a lot. The default shortcut key for the eyedropper is the alternate button. So typically I will paint a stroke, I will press Alt and click to sample the new tone, and then I'll paint another stroke, and then I'll Alt and click to sample the new tone, and repeat the process till I achieve somewhat of a smooth gradient. The brush set that I'm using is a combination of Jonas DeRose brush set and Jason Sellers skin brush from his Schoolism course. You can read the description box below to find out how to get them. Once I'm more or less happy with the basic tones, I can actually create a layer above the line art and start to paint in the details, and only here do I actually zoom in to the image, to my drawing, to paint in the details. So during the detail painting stage, I switch around from working with a hard edge brush to a soft edge brush. Typically for a female character or a female human subject, you want to keep the gradients on the face to be a bit more subtle. And because of that, using a soft edge or a feathered brush like this will actually make the transition a bit smoother. For us Chinese, we always use this term, saying that the eyes are the windows to our souls. So naturally, when drawing, you want to make sure that you capture the eye as accurately as possible. When using a feathered brush, it's very easy to make everything overly soft. It's very important to take note of that, and to ensure that in certain areas you still want to have a very big contrast. An example will be where the edge of the face meets the hair. So again, just using the soft edge brush or the feathered brush to kind of smooth out the contours on the cheeks. When trying to blend two tones, for me it's easier. I find it easier to start with two tones of higher contrast and then slowly blending them, as compared to trying to blend two tones that are very similar. So perhaps it's something that you can try. when it comes to drawing a human subject, I through my experience, I find that it's most of my clients actually prefer me to exaggerate certain features to beautify the subject, or to show the subject in a better light. And typically it's to remove any bumpiness on the face, any acne or pimple, any moles, and usually when I'm drawing a female face, I try to make the eyes a little bit bigger. Alright, not to the extent of the character looking like an anime character, but as long as you can make it just slightly bigger, just to increase the appeal of the subject that you're trying to portray. Again, if you notice, during the detail stage, I am actually painting over my original line art. So again, for this particular piece, my focal point is actually on the subject's face. So things like her furry scarf, the background, her shoulders, it's not really that important. So I just quickly fill in the shapes, but not really spending too much time on it. And just zooming in and out to check, to look at the big picture, make sure that everything is fine. So another thing I like to do while drawing portraits is that sometimes after a while I will actually combine the layers together, and I will actually use under filter, liquify, to just push and pull the shapes around to try and make my drawing resemble the reference a little bit more. And to be honest, this feels like cheating. So back when I first started digital painting, I was somewhat of a purist. I didn't like the idea of using custom brushes. I didn't like the idea of using layers while drawing, because it felt a little bit unnatural for me. It doesn't replicate the experience of drawing or painting using traditional media. And definitely I didn't use stuff like the transform tool or the liquify tool to fix my drawing. I would just erase and I will draw it again. But I realized that these tools are there for you to use it, and other artists are using it. So if you don't use it, you are at a disadvantage. And it took me a while to kind of realize that, and also reconcile this feeling, to get over this feeling and actually accept that, and to integrate that into my workflow. And I would say that after doing so, I find that I experience a massive growth spurt, because I accepted this new technique, so called. So I encourage you guys, if you're still a little bit undecided, a little bit unconvinced, that you should embrace these new techniques. Personally, I really enjoy the process of rendering. I like to, you know, spend time to try and you know, blend the shapes, make sure that everything looks as nice as possible. But I would agree that it's not for everyone, and some people actually tend to overdo things, myself included. So for this particular exercise, I try to you know, push the speed aspect a little bit more, to set aside a particular amount of time to try and finish this assignment. This video, I think, is sped up about 4 times, if I'm not wrong. So I took slightly less than 2 hours to do this portrait. It's not perfect by any means, but I try to get as close as possible to the reference image, given the time constraint. So again, just spending a lot of time on the face, and particularly the eye, because again, when you look at someone, you normally focus on the eyes. Now for the hair, I try to keep it simple. I use the same brush that I've been using, and I only paint on the highlighted area. So the tip that I will share when it comes to painting hair is to just pay attention and identify the strip of highlight that you tend to see on the hair. So it's very similar to that of an anime character. You see like a strip of white glow, or very light colored glow on the character's hair. Try to replicate that effect on your so-called realistic character. I could probably use a custom brush to paint the hair, but I think I was a little bit lazy to switch it out. Again, I cannot emphasize enough that, you know, the proper combination of shortcut keys will increase your speed tremendously when it comes to painting in Photoshop or in any other art programs, for the matter of fact. So again, I'm not exactly painting every single strand of hair. I'm just identifying certain areas where I think light is coming from, and I'm just adding them accordingly. Most of the hair is in this one singular tone. So for the furry scarf, I'm actually using a custom brush to just quickly block in the shapes to make it look like a furry scarf without spending too much time on it. Again, just to add about my personal moral dilemma of using custom brushes and or the fancy Photoshop features in my drawing, I come to realize that people don't really care how you do certain things. They just care about the end result. When you go to ArtStation and you look at amazing artwork, you don't care if that person draw from scratch 100%, or he used any sort of photo reference or 3D models as a guide. It doesn't matter that much, to be honest, when you're in the industry, because at the end of the day, it just matters whether you can produce the result or not. So definitely, aim to work smart and not work hard. Not saying that you shouldn't work hard, but if there's a more efficient approach, you should definitely look into it. Right, so I'm just darkening the background, because I noticed that it's not dark enough when I compare it to the photo reference. So once again, I am doing the liquify to kind of fix the eye. I think I kind of went overboard, made the eye a little bit too big. Right now it's still significantly bigger in terms of the proportion of the eyes when compared to the rest of the head, as compared to the original reference image, but I think right now it looks a little bit more like a human and not like an alien. And with that, I think I am almost done with this piece. I hope that you have learned some tips and tricks from this little exercise, from this little sketch. And yeah, do tell me if you have anything else you want to learn, and I'll see you next time.